done $10 million worth of concrete jobs over the past 5 years, and I've learned so much, and this video is gonna be all about sharing the 10 things that I wish that I knew when I first started. So number one is to niche down. I see so many people, including myself, and I fell into this massive trap where I thought that in order to make the most amount of revenue, I had to serve a ton of different type of customers, like residential, commercial. I had to do different types of work. Like for instance, I was doing flat work and foundations. And even just recently, and here's why you don't want to do this, is we just sold a foundation, and we did that because it's a little bit of a slower year this year. I wanted some extra revenue, and I thought I sold it for a great price. Well, we went and we did that foundation, and because we don't really know what we're doing, we made a couple mistakes. It was caught during the inspection, so not a huge deal, but we had to tear down the wall, reform it, and it causes so many issues. So when you're first starting, especially when you're first starting, before you grow, you wanna start small, serve one customer, one product in one area. You'd much rather get to the point where you're a big fish in a small pond versus being a small fish in a big pond. Number two is you're a sales business first and foremost. And so what I mean by that is, yes, I do concrete, but at the end of the day, my business is selling concrete. It's not doing concrete. So as contractors in particular, I see so many people and they get so wrapped up in what they're doing and about the job and about this, and that. They forget about the lifeblood of the business, which the lifeblood of the business is sales. Without sales, none of it matters. So it's not just about selling when you're slow, because also I see a lot of contractors do this. They get slow, they do a lot of sales, now they get a ton of sales, they're really, really busy, they stop selling, and all of a sudden they complete all the work, and now they have no work anymore, and they ride this roller coaster forever. But looking back on it, if I were to focus on one thing and make the most important thing in my business, it is always sales, so that way you always have work on the schedule. And number three, this kind of goes hand in hand, but marketing like your life depends on it. And so here's the thing, so many people, they rely on things like word of mouth or crappy leads like Home Advisor, and it might kind of get them along for the time being. Like for instance, they might have work for a little bit, but things always dry up. And the thing is, if you wait until things dry up before you start marketing, it is so much harder to crawl out of a hole, right? Versus if you're not ever in a hole and you're marketing the whole time, then it's so much easier. Like I can't even tell you guys how easy it makes my life being a concrete contractor in Colorado. And all of my competition, they stop advertising in like November. But then it hits spring and I'm already lined up with work because I don't stop, I don't shut down, I'm not a squirrel, I don't hibernate, right? I'm always working. And so if you're always working, your marketing should too. And so that means that you don't stop during the slow season, you don't stop when you get busy, you are always projecting out marketing because it never hurts to have more leads, because worst case is you have tons of leads and then you raise the prices. Now you could just sell jobs for more money. Number four is long-term thinking. And so when I first got into business, it sounds like you could make money really fast. And I know that sounds kind of stupid, but we all want to get Excel rich, right? We like put down projections and we're saying, oh man, in 3 years, I'm going to be $1 million business. And what you have to realize is in order to get into any business, not just contracting, but the people who stay in business the longest always win. For instance, Chick-fil-A, when they first started, which was I think like 50 years ago-ish, and they were just a one-off business selling chicken sandwiches. And imagine how much pain it took them to finally nail the business model of Chick-fil-A and nail the product. And it took literally decades, right? But now decades later, and they're doing billions of dollars in just profit, not even revenue, because they just stuck with one thing and they focused. And so that's something that I've struggled with. And the thing is, with being an entrepreneur, we get this great idea and we're like, man, I'm gonna go start a business. And we get rewarded by that, right? Because we go start a business, you start doing well, and you're like, oh man, to get to the next level, I start another business. But the thing is, when you start a business and it starts working, you have to keep your head down and do more before you do new. Number five is risk management. And when I say that, in times of being a business owner, there's good times and there's bad times. And so I went through COVID with my business, which a lot of you did too, and times were really, really good, right? Because when people weren't allowed to travel, they would basically take all their money, and instead of doing traveling, they would do home projects. And interest rates were at an all-time low, so people were able to take out money, and it was super cheap, and everyone could do projects. Well, now fast forward, and times are a little bit harder right now, you could still be successful, but when times are good, you have to save your money, because man, if you're living life on the edge every single year, and imagine it's kind of like playing a game of poker, and every single hand you're like pretty sure that you're gonna win, but you go all in. Well, even if you go all in with pocket aces in poker, you're gonna lose some hands still, right? It's not guaranteed that you're gonna win. And so looking back, if I were to have to restart, after I would get some wins, I would save some of my money and not spend it as fast as I did. And I didn't even spend it on stupid stuff, like not even personal stuff, it was more business stuff. But looking back, one is I hired way too fast and I bought way too much equipment, and I always anticipated that I was gonna be able to basically grow at 100% a year until I hit a $100 million company, which in reality, that's just not possible. So with that being said, the goal of business is to stay in business first and foremost, and then next is growth. And number 6, and this is gonna sound a little contradictory, but I'm gonna explain, it's speed is king. And when I say speed is king, it's about dealing with your problems. I know so many people, and as humans, we are hardwired to avoid all of the hard things. Doing your taxes, doing things like marketing, which isn't very fun, having a hard, difficult conversation with your employee. It's so easy to push those things off. But the longer that I've been in business, the more that I've realized that the people who win, they take action immediately when they see a problem. When they see a problem, they do not allow it to build and persist and get even worse in the business. Like for instance, I had a culture problem in my business, and crawling out of it was a huge issue. Like for instance, I let employees get away with having a bad attitude sometimes because I was afraid of making the difficult conversations. But then if you wait months and months and months, or even weeks, then getting back to dealing with that problem is gonna be so much harder. So if you have a problem, solve it with speed. Do not push things off in the future. And then equally, when there's a great opportunity that doesn't involve doing something new and is gonna put your business at risk, you have to hop on that stuff fast. Number 7 is to hire slow, but fire fast. And in the past, I actually did the opposite. All of a sudden, we would be slammed with work, and I was in a lot of temporary pain. Meaning I'm like, oh my gosh, I have all of these leads and I can't follow up with all of them, so I need a salesman. So what would I do is I'd go find a salesman. I'd try to rush the process, meaning I was like, I'm in a lot of pain right now and I need help right now. But the problem is when you do that and you're allowing people in your business that maybe you wouldn't have allowed before, I didn't really realize how big of a problem that would cause as far as long-term success. And now what I'm really realizing is business, all it really is, it's a collection of equipment, of assets, and people, AKA your team, and that's all a business really is. And your team is probably by far the most important piece of that. So if it's one of the most important decisions that you can make in your business, it's important, although you might be in a lot of pain and you might need a lot of help. Do not rush into finding a B player, because a B player is gonna do 5 times less work and be 5 times less good than an A player. And that's something that I've really realized is now moving forward, everyone that I'm hiring, I'm gonna be so diligent about who I'm really bringing on. And then on the other side of the coin, it's to fire fast. As soon as I realize that someone is not a great fit, every single time that I've had an inclination that maybe this person isn't the best fit, and I try to give them time, they have never turned into an A player. So a D player might turn into a B player, but I've never seen a B player turn into an A player. Number 8 is to be the expensive company. When I first got in business, I thought that it was doing my customers a good service by being a cheaper company. And when I say cheaper, just being competitively priced. But the thing is, there's already a million companies who are priced basically the exact same, and the last thing is that your market needs is another person who's gonna charge the same prices, provide the same service, and the same solution. So if I were to have to restart all over again, and what I do now is I charge a much higher price, but on the back end, I have a better service. I have more management staff, I have a better warranty, and I have things that make my experience better than my competition. And the only way that I could do that is by charging more money. And number 9, if I were to do this all over again, I would choose a service that's really hard to get into. Like for instance, when I first started my business, I was so thankful that I didn't need a license. But looking back, I actually realized how big of a problem that kind of is. Because why does Warren Buffett buy a railroad, for instance? Why is that such a good business? And the reason it's a good business is because who is ever going to compete with a railroad? You can't just go put up another railroad right next to the existing one, right? It takes a lot of permitting, a lot of planning, a lot of money, and is very, very hard to get into. So with that being said, if you are newer or you're trying to figure out what service to get into, try to think about something that's extremely hard to get into. And I know that sounds counterintuitive because when you're first starting, you're like, well, man, I just want to start, Tyler, and that's fine. But just realize, if it's really easy for you to start, it's gonna be really easy for your competition to start, meaning it's always gonna be harder for you to compete because you're gonna have so many other people who are willing to do the exact same thing that you could do. And number 10 is the way that you invest. And so when I was brand new, I used to think, oh man, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make some money and I'm gonna be a real estate investor. And it sounds really sexy, right? You're like, oh, I'm gonna make some money and I'm gonna use this money, I'm gonna make more money in all these different ways. But then I realized something, that number one is just like business, being in real estate also requires a lot of expertise. And to be honest, to be great at anything, you can't do a ton of stuff. And so in my personal opinion, investing is a complete waste of time unless you're investing in your own personal skills or your business. So for me personally, if I were to have to take $50,000 to invest today, and for instance, I knew that I could get to another phase of business, but I need help or I need a skill and I don't know how to do it. Like for instance, one of the things that I'm looking into right now is an operating system called EOS. And I'm looking into that and it's a $50,000 consultant. But what I've noticed is every single time that I've put money into investing in knowledge and skills off basically building my own business today, I'm getting a much better return over investing and getting, say for instance, 10% in the S&P. Because if I could take $50,000 today, but I could learn how to make my business 10% more money, and now I'm gonna make an extra, say, $30,000 to $50,000 a year forever, well, that compounds on itself over time because in the next skill that you get, you're gonna also see another big increase. So before you think about investing in the stock market or real estate or crypto or all of the other things, it's so much better and you're gonna make so much more money investing in yourself and investing in your business. I lost a lot of money not doing these things when I first started, so I hope this video helps you. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.